Welcome to another trip through time with marybeng76 Time Travel Excursions, October 9th. I'm your host and time pilot, the Salty Historian. We'll be stopping at events from the 15th through the 20th centuries. As always, keep all your favorite bits, bobs, and body parts inside the time machine at all times, because otherwise you might come back with a nub. Not my problem. Now let's get this thing fired up. First stop, 1410. That's the 15th century, kids. And the earliest mention of Prague's astronomical clock. Now, an astronomical clock is generally designed to display astronomical information. The Prague clock shows the relative position of astronomical bodies, from the sun all the way through the zodiac constellations. But that's not all. It tells the time, the date, and you can catch a show. Every hour on the hour, that clock comes to life. Hand-carved and partially animated statues take center stage, representing, among other things, the walk of the apostles. There are characters like the obvious, the apostles. Then there's Satan and the Grim Reaper. While scientific studies have since proven it wrong, the legend of the clock is pretty interesting. As it goes, and for centuries, it was said that the clock's original designer, a guy called Hanus, had been commissioned to design and build the clock. Once it was completed, he proved it was functional. So, city officials fucked him over. They had him blinded so he couldn't do it again for somebody else. Understandably, that pissed him off. So he went berserk and destroyed his own work. The clock stayed silent for more than 50 years at that point, before it was brought back to life by a guy called Jan. Today, the clock is under constant repair. Job security, am I right? And in 2018, a secret message was found within one of the statues. It was a message from another sculptor. He'd been commissioned to recreate some of the pieces after the clock sustained heavy damage during World War II. In the message, he detailed plans for a more extensive repair of the clock, and he bitched about the conditions at the time. Today, after more than 600 years, the Prague clock remains the oldest functioning of its kind. Moving on to 1446, and the first publication of the South Korean Hangul alphabet. Now, during his reign, King Sejong the Great set up a group of people to publish a new alphabet. Now, that was twofold. First, it easily allowed the people to move away from Chinese characters. Second, because it was based on the shapes the mouth makes when speaking, it allowed for the common folk to learn reading and writing. Prior to that, most people were illiterate. Well, the elite of the country did not like the little people being able to read about their bullshit, so they banned Hangul. In the 16th century, it was revived, and by the 19th century, Korean nationalism led to a rise in its use. In 1894, it was named the official language of the country. In 1895, and probably much to the dismay of elementary school students, textbooks were first printed in Hangul. And the following year, the first newspaper was published in Hangul and English. But in 1938, the official language was named Japanese because colonizing. And the Korean alphabet was banned again because people suck. In 1946, South Korea got rid of the colonizers. Hangul was once again named the official alphabet and remains such today. On to 1876 and the beginning of long-distance phone calls. On this day, Alexander Graham Bell demonstrated the first two-way call on outdoor wires. It went from Boston to Cambridge. Of course, it didn't stop there, because in 1947, cell phones started showing up. No, seriously. That year, the first call between a moving car and an airplane took place. It happened above Wilmington, Delaware, and by the 1960s, car phones were becoming a thing. And now a lot of us can't even function without our smartphones. But are they really smart? I'm not convinced, since I rarely, if ever, mean duck. Next stop, 1982, and the premiere of one of the most iconic masks ever worn. On this day, The Phantom of the Opera premiered at Her Majesty's Theatre in London. Since then, it has grossed more than $1 billion on Broadway and $6 billion worldwide. It was the longest running show on Broadway for a long time, with its 10,000th performance happening in February of 2012. Oh, and by the way, a woman called Gillian Lynn choreographed it. You can find the video I created about her in my alphabetical playlist. On to 1992, when Mars attacked. Okay, kinda. It actually went after a Chevy Malibu. In New York. On this day, around 8 p.m., an 18-year-old girl was watching television in her parents' house. Well, then she heard something that sounded like a car accident right out front. Except it wasn't. What she found was the ass end of her car crushed. And buried in the ground was this football shaped rock. It was warm to the touch and smelled like sulfur. That's the nasty egg smell, kids. Its diameter was only about a foot, but it weighed 27 pounds. She called the cops thinking it was vandals, but it was really obvious that no one would have been able to pick it up and throw it effectively. Scientists determined it was a meteorite from an area between Mars and Jupiter. It hit her car at 164 miles per hour even after slowing down in the atmosphere. She'd previously bought the Malibu from her grandma for $400. The meteorite decided it was worth far more. She got 25 grand from a meteorite collector and another 50,000 from three investors. The car was auctioned in 2012 for about $5,300. Also that year, the meteorite was cut into pieces and sold to museums and private collectors. A 2.95 ounce of that thing sold for $16,250, or about $5,500 per ounce. By comparison, an ounce of gold at that time was only worth about $1,600. It's about a tenth of the space rock. See, y'all, we're using the wrong shit. Space rocks are way better than shiny rocks. Anyway, our final stop takes us to 1999 and the final flight of the SR-71 Blackbird. To this day, it's one of the most iconic and admired crafts in history, and it happened because of the Cold War. Existing planes were becoming more and more vulnerable to surface-to-air missiles. So Lockheed's Skunk Works designed a high-speed, high-altitude craft. It could reach speeds up to Mach 3, or about 2,200 miles per hour, and soared up to 85,000 feet. It was intimidating and stumped radar. It was made mostly of titanium to be able to withstand those speeds. Its skin also expanded as it flew. That sealed joints and gaps, which is important when you go that fast. Alas, budget concerns. And the Air Force ultimately decommissioned the program, despite its unparalleled capabilities. Oh, and those capabilities included flying through heavily defended airspaces, being shot at more than 1,000 times, and was never shot down. Like, not ever. No other aircraft has been as effective, including current technology, like UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. On this day, for that final flight, pilot Roger Smith and flight engineer Robert Meyer manned that final flight of the SR-71. They hit 80,100 feet and Mach 3.21, and enthusiasts on the ground cheered its unforgettable sonic boom. Side note, on March 6, 1990, the SR-71 set a coast-to-coast record, LA to DC in just over an hour, and we can't even get through airport security that fast. If you were born on this day, you share your birthday with John Lennon. Do I really have to explain who he was? Steve Burns. Yeah, Blue's Clues, kids. And Guillermo del Toro, who makes really fucked up movies. If it's not your birthday but you'd like a reason to celebrate, today is National Moldy Cheese Day, International Beer and Pizza Day, and in South Korea, Hangul Day. Celebrating that alphabet I told you about. And that, kids, brings us back to 2024. Please be sure you still have all your favorite body parts and didn't pick up any extras on the way. Again, not my problem. Oh, and take your fucking trash with you. I already have kids and you ain't them. Thank you for joining me on another trip through time with marybeng76 Time Travel Excursions. See you again next time.